Look at the size of these pine trees. Let me get this one. Let's try to go up it. And then over here. Look at that. How about that one? I think that one's probably bigger than the other one. Man. Watching the world burn, watching the world burn. March 29th, 2025. Let's get into it. You know, I always try to help you. If the first part of the video, and then we'll get into the politics, was I ran a quote through a service and ended up with Allstate. And the quote they gave me didn't really improve on my auto insurance, so I just left it at that. Well, believe it or not, I got a call from them yesterday, and they said, well, we've looked at, you know, the quote that we gave you, and it was on the high side considering your driving record, because I have no tickets. I just made one claim. And they said, we can give that policy to you for $900. That's savings of $350 right there. That's every 6 months, though. I said, hell yeah, count me in. But the crazy part was I couldn't cancel the other policy. I went through an insurance broker to get the other policy. And so they tried to call the insurance company, and this insurance company said, no, you got to go through the broker to cancel it. Anyway, I can't get in touch with the broker. I'm going to have to just go over to their office and get it canceled. But something you might want to look at. Maybe run another quote on your auto insurance. We already talked about homeowners insurance. Let's get into the news for just a minute. So we got the situation in Ukraine. Now, if you didn't know, Putin just came out with a speech because they launched a new nuclear powered submarine that's equipped with hypersonic missiles. So, you know, everybody wants to talk about, oh, Russia's just a nation with posing as a gas station or whatever it was. No, Russia's got the same equipment that we do. Now, I did say that F-47, there was a post on X talking about it. Now, that might be a revolution in technology because the post, I'll have to find it and read it to you, but it was talking about the fact that it's going to be a one-man flying Air Force because it's going to use AI-controlled drones along with, so one pilot can control, you know, many aircraft. So, and, you know, think about it, those drones, I don't know if you've seen in the movies where, you know, yeah, the good guys are trying to hit something and everybody, you know, they do suicide runs to protect the mothership, or they throw drones in there to protect the mothership. Same thing, you could use these drones to knock missiles out of the air to protect the airplane. And of course, they'll be equipped, I'm sure, with bombs and everything else. Just a interesting little tidbit, but what the part that I wanted to get to was Putin's speech. And the way I interpreted it, number one, he said, unless there's free and fair elections in Ukraine, they're not talking to Zelensky. So I don't know how in the world you're going to get an authoritarian government to give up their power for free and fair elections. So that was one thing that he stipulated, that, you know, and when he says free and fair elections, you know, and he did say a UN peacekeeping force would be allowed to in Ukraine, but I don't see those things happening. And unless Trump walks away, we're just going to keep sending money and weapons to Ukraine for the duration, you know, as long as it takes. So I think Russia's pretty much settled in on the point that they're just going to fight until Ukraine is completely defeated and take an unconditional surrender, which could mean a landlocked Ukraine. You know, because if Russia has to fight all the way to the end, they're going to take Odessa, and they're going to, you know, do that. Got a helicopter coming in. Sorry, I was getting distracted. So the other thing I wanted to talk about was Alex Jones put up a post on the Epstein files, and I guess Pam Bondi, or the Justice Department, raided that New York office that was supposed to provide all of the files. Where the hell is that helicopter? There he is. Okay, yeah, so I just amazing how loud they are. Anyway, so they found, I want to say it was 16 terabytes of child porn, all kinds of crazy stuff. And now the Washington, D.C. office has their hands on all of that material. Now, they can't just release it because you have to protect the victims. So it's going to be heavily redacted when it gets out into the public eye. Plus, they got to develop the cases against people that have committed these heinous crimes of raping children. So they, they're going to be working on it, but they're saying they got it. They got the information by raiding that New York, and I think they fired the New York FBI person in charge of that New York office, which is a good thing. So we are getting some results. Speaking of results, a lot of people have been complaining about Robert Kennedy and what is he doing, with the, what's the department he's in charge of now, HUD? Anyway, make America healthy again. Anyway, he said that the whole department, I ain't never been around in here before. Hope I don't get lost. He said the entire department was just a mess. That there was departments doing redundant activity, departments that, have their own fiefdoms and didn't want to work together with other departments, all underneath the same cabinet, his position. And so he's cleaning things up. He says he's using Elon Musk and Doge to try to eliminate some of that redundancy and get everybody working on the Make America Healthy Again agenda. And one thing that we are going to have pretty soon, from what I understand, is a vaccine injury department underneath HUD or underneath Robert Kennedy. And because he said the material that they got is just useless. And so they're going to start collecting that. So we got good things coming. As I think of things, we'll keep on hiking. I was hoping that I would come to a picnic table. I know there's a couple around here somewhere. Like I said, I'm kind of lost right now. I'm so deep in the forest, and there's trails going every which way. Hold on. Before I get more on the video, I just wanted to show you what I'm talking about. We got a trail going that way. Trail going that way. I just came up from that way. I can't believe that's a trail, but there's a mark on that tree right there. I don't know. And then, of course, I love this. Out here in the middle of the woods, there's a road sign. I can't read it. I just think it's crazy. Out in the middle of the woods, a road sign. This looks kind of crazy for a trail. Huh. Boy, I tell you, if I was still backpacking, I could put up in here all kinds of great places to set up a backpack. All right, let's get back into the video. There was a story that Sean Hannity was talking to Ted Cruz about. And I just wanted to put this out there to you. Because with AI, you know that the deep fakes are going to get worse and worse and worse. And so evidently some foreigners and even students, they're generating nudie photos of young girls for the most part. I imagine they target some boys and then they try to blackmail them. And I'm hearing about teenage suicides as a result of these deep fakes. You might want to, because I'm going to tell you, as an old dude, if there was a nudie of me somewhere on the internet, as a young man, I don't think I would really care at this point. But so you really need to take your son or daughter and pull them aside. Number one, make sure that they understand that they should never do that to anybody. Generate an AI image of somebody without their permission. But the next thing is you might want to say, look, if somebody does that to you, well, if Ted Cruz, I don't know if the law has passed, but you can get it taken down under his new law. Now, that wasn't the case if that legislation didn't make it in. So who knows where that stands. But you can always, appeal to your senator to get it taken down. But, just tell them, say, look, it's no big deal. So they put a nudie up of you, man. Be proud, man. Look at that body. You're not going to have that body in 50 years, right? You might want to just point that out to them and say, I'm here for you. I'm your mom or your dad or whatever. We're going to stand by you no matter what. And if the other kids want to make fun of you or whatever, you just tell them, say, it looked damn good, didn't it? Otherwise, I wouldn't put a nudie up of you. So anyway, that's just my philosophy on that. But I do think you need to have that conversation with a young person in this day and age. The other story that we talked about was, if you recall in the video before the whole Signal fiasco, I recommended that everybody put Signal on their phone and use Signal for making phone calls. Now, and I told you that Signal was compromised. So, if you didn't know, everybody in Washington, D.C. uses Signal. So that was no big deal that reporter got included in the conversation. Oh my goodness, there goes another trail. I swear, I know I'm going to have a hard time finding my way back. So anyway, I have till 8 o'clock. It doesn't get dark till then. So anyway, Signal, a lot of people say that it's a CIA-developed app, okay? And CIA was promoting it to all kinds of bad people to get them to use it so that they could hack into their phone calls and listen to what's going on, okay? But that doesn't mean that your neighbor can hack into your phone call, or if you're in a Wi-Fi spot, that the hacker's going to be able to hack into it. So what I'm trying to tell you is it's a great app to communicate with. It's got capabilities that your normal cell phone doesn't have, and it's somewhat secure. That's all I wanted to say about it. So anyway, the other story I wanted to get into is the, wow, looks like there's a lake over there. Huh. The other story I wanted to get into was the Middle East. We're going to just talk briefly about that because evidently the Trump administration is looking at Iran getting a nuke as an existential threat to the United States, which could mean war with Iran. However, I do believe that Russia doesn't want Iran getting a nuclear weapon either. And Russia has influence over Iran. So I think the danger of them getting a nuclear weapon is very small and very slim. Now, could they make one? Sure. They could make it in a week if they wanted to, you know, but because they got all the material and everything, and I'm sure they've got the plans all drawn up. But do they want to do that? And they don't. Well, I mean, I would hope that they come to the realization that they don't need to do it. With their missile technology, you know, and the number of missiles that they have, and they've shown them off. They're all underneath mountains and everything, so we can't get to them. They can obliterate these U.S. bases. They can, you know, shut down the Strait of Hormuz. They can, you know, I've already listed all of these things. So Iran could just, and the price of oil would skyrocket to levels that, you know, would be astronomical. They could cripple the entire world if they wanted to without a nuclear weapon. So I don't see any reason why they would want to get a nuclear weapon. I mean, it is a little bit more of a deterrence. But anyway, that's just my philosophy on that. So I don't think we got a lot to worry about. All we got to do is talk to Putin and say, look, why don't you make sure that Iran doesn't get a nuclear weapon? Because if they do, we're gonna hit them. You know, probably the only way we could really hit them would be with nuclear weapons. And if we did that, I dare say we still wouldn't get all of their missiles, even with a nuclear bomb, because those things are so far underground. And then they would just launch once again. They launch on the Middle East, and hell, we might have all-out global thermal nuclear war at that point. I'm going to get lost, I'm going to tell you, because I'm coming up to a spot where I got to go left or right, and I've already made so many lefts and rights. I don't know where the hell I am, man. I can't, I got to get back by 8 o'clock. I don't want to be back here in the dark. Oh my God. Plus, I'm pretty damn tired at this point. I've been hiking for a while. All right, if I think of something else, we'll get on the video. We're going to do the stand-up portion here in just a few. All right, this was the body of water that I was looking at just a second ago. I've actually been here before, but I got here a different way. So I don't know how the hell I got here. I certainly don't know how the hell to get back. Anyway, here's the picnic table. Let's get the sit-down portion of the video. You can listen to the frogs in the background. All right, let's get through some of these readings. I'm going to start off with just a quick video from Putin. This isn't the speech that he gave at the Nuclear Powered Submarine, but it does say basically the same thing. This is DDG of Politics. In a blunt statement, Putin declared that Russia's armed forces are gaining momentum and operating with increasing effectiveness. He added that the only thing left is for Ukrainian people themselves to realize what's actually happening, because he said the outcome is now inevitable. So that's what I was talking about earlier in the video. Let's watch that video now.
еще совсем недавно говорил, мы их дожмем, есть основания полагать, что мы их добьем. Я думаю, что только должно прийти осознание того, что происходит у самого украинского народа. А то, что наши вооруженные силы набирают обороты, действуют все более и более эффективно.
All right, so that was Putin. And I'm not going to do the whole stream, but if I can find it. But I don't understand why Robert Kennedy gave Chris Como this huge interview. And the Valiant Fox put up a nice thread that talks about everything that was going on. I'm not going to play it unless I can find the whole video, because what he did was he chopped it up into little pieces. And I would rather you just see the whole interview. So if I can find it, we'll put that right here.
Bobby, it's good to have you.
Good to be with you, Chris.
You know, I haven't even talked to you on TV. I've talked to you off TV, but congratulations. It was an interesting process to watch. Since you've been in, what is the biggest surprise for you so far?
I think the biggest surprise for me was the warm reception that I got from HHS employees. The day that I was inaugurated, I had one of the biggest crowds in the Great Hall, and it was without exception very, very supportive and very warm. I think people at HHS want to do their jobs. They want to make America healthy again, and they feel that they're finally going to be able to do their jobs.
So how do you reconcile their enthusiasm with word of 10,000 cuts?
Well, you know, there's cuts across the federal government, and I think it's hard on everybody. But our agency, which is the biggest agency in government, twice the size of the Pentagon, $1.9 trillion, grew by 38% budget during the Biden administration, 17% in employee increases, and public health went down. By every metric by which you measure public health, it decreased with all the money that was being thrown at it, with all the personnel that were being brought in. This is a sprawling agency, Chris. We have over 100 comms departments. We have 40 procurement departments. We have dozens of IT departments, dozens of HR departments. None of them talk to each other. And what we're trying to do now is to streamline the agency, to eliminate the redundancies, and to focus the mission so that everybody who is at HHS is going to wake up every morning and say, what am I going to do today to make America healthy again? And we're going to make it easier for those. We're not cutting scientists. We're not cutting frontline workers. We're cutting administrators, and we're consolidating the agency to make it more efficient.
So you have to bear the burden of some of the DOGE rhetoric and recoil. So when people hear cuts now, they worry about delivery of services because there's an open question as to whether or not at least Elon Musk cares about any of the people who get served by these agencies. So when it comes to your agency, Bobby, which, as you said, is a sprawling one, how do you give confidence to all of the individuals and parents and families that need the services that you provide, and they hear they're going to be cuts?
We're not going to cut services. We're not going to cut Medicaid. We're not going to cut Medicare. We're going to continue. We're going to provide services, but more efficiently. We have, thanks to Elon, and by the way, what Elon did with our agency is going to help our agency. So I'm very grateful to him he came in for the first time with a real org chart for the agency. The agency org chart, when I arrived, was incomprehensible. There was no chain of command. There were people operating in all these different silos and fiefdoms, and they were so territorial and so self-serving that they were selling patient information to each other. So I tried to get the CMS patient information, which belongs to the American people and belongs to HHS. And the sub-agencies said we have to buy it from them. And it doesn't make any sense. There are sub-agencies that refuse to give us patient data. This is depersonalized data. Mm-hmm. And we need to make America healthy again. So what Elon is doing is he's using AI to improve health, to improve efficiency, to improve delivery. And he had a bunch of geniuses come over to the department, create an org chart that worked, and consolidate. We have many divisions that are doing the exact same thing. We need to consolidate them and give them a sense of mission, to invite them to participate in making our country healthier again. And I think that's why we're getting, a very, very strong, enthusiastic reaction from people within the agency. And of course, it's hard to lose workers. We're going from 82,000 workers to 62,000. That's tough on everybody. But I think in the long run, we're going to have much greater morale in a demoralized agency.
Look, I just think it makes it easier for people to swallow when they see that the administration is going after the deepest pocket, which is the DOD. And until that happens, I think that there's going to be some skepticism. But I hear your argument, and I put it to the audience. Let me ask you, are you going to make any investments in long COVID and vaccine injuries in terms of coming up with treatments and data to help clinicians, help their patients?
Yeah, that's going to be one of our priority focuses. We already have a division at NIH that is devoted to studying long COVID and to figuring out cures and to study, and we're incorporating an agency within CDC that is going to specialize in vaccine injuries. Oh, those are things that are priorities for me, and also Lyme disease. These are priorities for the American people. More and more people are suffering from these injuries, and we are committed to having gold standard science to make sure that we can figure out what the treatments are and that we can deliver the best treatments possible to the American people.
Bobby, I left this for last because I care about it least. But you have nothing to do with the signal situation. But I want your observation as a student of the game for as many years as you are. What is your read on the dynamic that is going on between the Trump administration and everybody else when it comes to handling this situation? What do you see in this?
Chris, that's not really part of my portfolio, and I am narrowly focused, not on politics, but on making my agency serve the American people and making America healthy again. We launched Operation Stork Speed to improve our capacity to have good, nutritious baby formula for the American public that doesn't have heavy metals or other poisons in it. We've met with the major food processors and told them we want chemical dyes out of all of our foods, that we want to reduce the sugar. We are reforming the SNAP program so that we're not poisoning kids. 10% of SNAP is now spent on soda drinks, which are giving diabetes to children, which 38% of American teens are now pre-diabetic or diabetic. When I was a kid, it was 0. Today, it's 38% of our teens, 50% of our adults. We're spending more on diabetes now than we're spending on the military budget. It's going to sink our country, and we are starting kids addicted to these sugar drinks when they're very young in poor communities. We're getting rid of that. So, we're reforming every part of the agency to make sure that our food supply is good and that we have the healthiest kids in the world, which we had when I was a kid.
If you deal with the ingredients, if you deal with the plastic that we're all putting in our bodies 100 different ways,
exactly.
I think that in and of itself would be a good legacy. So I am going to give you a pass, Bobby, on that naked dodge of my question, because one, you don't have anything to do with the signal situation, and two, I like what you pivoted to. So I'm giving you the pass. Secretary Kennedy, thank you for coming on to make the case
I
tonight.
appreciate it, Chris. Thank you.
All right, I'll see you again. Good luck, Bobby, doing the work of the people.
The vaccine injury news broke when Kennedy announced that the CDC is creating a new sub-agency focused entirely on vaccine injuries, a long overdue shift for patients who've spent years searching for answers without support from the government. This was Mila Joy, and she's been adjusting this. And so this week's top 10 list, who Kash Patel's FBI needs to investigate. And then she lists them, and she didn't have Anthony Fauci in there. And I kept saying, you need Anthony Fauci. So I guess a lot of people must have been adjusting her list. Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, Nancy Pelosi, Anthony Fauci, Hillary Clinton, Merrick Garland, Adam Schiff, Liz Cheney, Jack Smith, Barack Obama. Who did I miss? And of course, Mayorkas, I would add that, but she only She only gives you the top 10. I'm sure she has a lot more. This is a really interesting thread. This is New Rules Geopolitics. And we spoke to a Russian platoon commander on how Russian tactics have changed over time, why Ukraine is on a losing streak, and why the Russian military is becoming much more powerful. And I'm going to do this whole stream because I found this very interesting. So, drone warfare makes a large-scale offensive impossible. Neither side can afford to risk concentrating a large number of troops and equivalent in a single area. The only tactic left is to advance in small groups of 3 or 4 people. And then he's got a video right here, so let's watch that.
Why is everything so slow? Why can't we have these wide movements like in World War II with big advances, big encirclements, armored vehicles traveling 100 kilometers as part of an offensive? Why does everything happen in small pieces?
Because of UAVs. They fly 24/7. They fly, they see, they have thermal imagers, night vision, satellite photos. We also have satellite photos. We have drones flying. We see each other from 20-25 kilometers. We see what's going on with us and where we are. To concentrate in one place, even 3 tanks, that's already too many because they can already launch HIMARS or our Iskanders there. If it's heading toward the Ukrainians, actually it's not possible to concentrate so many troops. That's the first thing. And if we do concentrate, they'll either try to bomb us right away, just like we would bomb them, or they'll wait for us to get closer so they can hit us with artillery and stop us from doing anything. So we're like, oh, 3 Ukrainian tanks are coming at us. Let's wait for them. We'll call 2 or 3 UAV squads and wait until they arrive. Because everything is visible, it's all very well seen. And the only tactic left is, if there are a lot of UAVs on the front from any famous UAV units, either ours or theirs, the only tactic is to move in small groups, like 3 or 4 people, advancing 100 meters a day, carefully sitting down. We weren't driven out. The next day, another 3 people advance another 100 meters. And that's how it goes.
Okay. Expensive fighter jets are becoming obsolete. Remember I was talking about that? But if that F-47 has its own drone fleet, that'd be impressive. That would be something to really, really think about. Expensive fighter jets are becoming obsolete on the battlefield, increasingly dominated by drone warfare. Hello, F-35, F-47. I already talked about that. By contrast, artillery has become even more essential than it was during World War I, since the drones make it even more lethal. He's got another video here. Let's watch that.
Can we say at this point that UAVs have surpassed both artillery and traditional aviation in terms of their central role in combat operations?
Well, aviation probably has been surpassed because aviation has become a more surgical way of delivering pinpoint strikes. But I would disagree with you about artillery because most reconnaissance is still conducted for artillery, especially for the Western systems, as they shoot a bit farther than Soviet ones. We are trying to fix that here in Russia, but Paladins and guided munitions are certainly more dangerous in that respect. And when the Ukrainians were given cluster munitions in the middle of their counteroffensive in August or June, I think it became way more dangerous. FPV drones are frightening in that they keep you on edge all the time. You can't relax, you can't step out for a smoke during the day because something could come zooming in at any moment. You hear a buzzing sound and that's it. It's not just that you might not have time to hide. If you hear the sound of cluster munitions, bam, 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 you most likely won't be able to escape. Your position has already been spotted, assessed, and they've decided whether to use cluster munitions on it. Well, let's use them, we'll kill someone. So I wouldn't agree that drones have completely surpassed artillery 100%. But they've reached parity, an equilibrium. You can't do anything without artillery. And artillery alone can't accomplish much either. Against the enemy, with both artillery and airdrops. And those big drones alone won't accomplish much either, because there simply aren't enough of them. Unless they are deployed like bullets, 30 at a time. But I don't know who can do that right now.
Okay. And then special forces units are also becoming obsolete. Thanks to drone warfare, a 50-year-old alcoholic with basic training can easily take out a U.S. Army Ranger with massive combat experience. Good point there. And we got another video.
The army and its structure are always changing. Before, knights were the toughest. You had to dress one guy, feed him so he could walk around and kill everyone. Then he became a knight. When these guys appeared, they became unnecessary. Right? That's how history goes. Now, special forces aren't needed, for example, because there are scouts in every regiment. The Rangers from the 75th Brigade, I think, will be very upset when they find out they're not needed. Where's some Uncle Vasya who drank vodka for 5 years, then signed a contract, and now he can bomb them all with one strike? They'll be very upset.
And then, because New Rules Geopolitics, it's a channel that I found. They do a really good job a lot of times if you want to follow them on X. Why is the battle for the Donbass such a difficult grind for both Russia and Ukraine? Answer, because the Donbass consists of open fields with artificially planted forest belts. Storming these forests is difficult because the enemy can see you coming. And another video right here.
Why was it difficult to participate? Because Donbass consists of fields artificially planted with these tree belts. They are not wide, but very long, with trees planted in squares in the fields. It's hard to fight there because you can't freely move around the field with a drone, and there's no room for maneuver. If someone has fortified themselves in one of those tree belts, it's already hard to storm it because they can see you quickly. You come under rapid fire, you don't even have time to get close enough for an assault. The battle dragged on for a long time, very sluggishly, very boring actually. One position was given up, then retaken, then stormed 1,000 times, you could say. And it ended quietly because they were gradually pushed out little by little.
Ukraine's Kursk operation was so badly planned that it's hard to believe that they drew up the plan. That's a pretty good chance that this was yet another brain-dead scheme by Team Biden. Same goes for the failed 2023 Ukrainian offensive. We got another video.
They had this notion that if they attacked conscripts and captured a couple of cities, Russia would be scared and everyone would run away. I don't know why. They seem to have conjured up these hypothetical conditions for themselves and took that as gospel. They didn't invest enough into this attack. They didn't bring in sufficient forces. They thought it would go well. Why didn't they know that on the Kursk front, near Kursk, near Belgorod, there was a whole grouping from Battle Group Sever, a whole grouping where people are in every grove? Didn't they know about this? I don't know how it happened. Maybe the US is still not providing satellite images of Russia, so they tried, failed, and just clung to it with all their might. My division's 30th Regiment fought them every day. The Marines also had conversations with them. For show, the Ukrainians wanted a reason to say, look, we've invaded Russia, as a counterpoint to the Russian army's successes in Donbass, the LPR, and even Zaporozhye. They wanted to pat themselves on the back and claim, but look, we still have Suja. That's the crux of the matter. Why didn't they succeed? Because our Russian command didn't fall for this provocation. They didn't go and pull everything toward Kursk to retake it as quickly as possible. Not Kursk itself, but the Kursk front. They didn't fall for it. They just worked methodically, quietly, bit by bit, squeezing the enemy. Apparently, their calculation was that our command would panic and pull everything from all directions to Suja to get it back. Fortunately, we didn't fall for it. Politically, they don't understand us. I can't comprehend this, honestly. Like, we've lived next to each other as brothers. We were one country for a long time. It's a deep-rooted history. Well, we've basically been one people throughout history. So Ukraine and Russia are single totality, and yet they don't understand us. It feels like they're not planning these operations, but someone in the West, in the Pentagon is. Because how do they not understand us and that we're not going anywhere, we're not going to run, we're not going to fall for provocations? It's odd. Each time one of their big operations, it feels like the Americans are planning their offensive in Iraq. That's the feeling.
All right, now that you've seen that video, it was supposedly Britain that drew up the Kursk invasion, is what I've heard. But it could have been the Biden administration. Either one is just as dumb, right? And then how do Russian soldiers treat Ukrainian POWs? The answer may shock you. And let's another video.
But by the way, we had a question in the comments. How do Russian soldiers feel about Ukrainians? Do they still see them as a brotherly people, given everything that's happened? Or do they see them as enemies now?
Well, as enemies, probably. Well, soldiers at least. But it also depends on the unit, from one political ideology to another. We have communists among us, comrades, and all that. Some try to reason with the prisoners immediately. Someone like Milichakov from the Sabotage Assault Reconnaissance Group, Rusich, who knows what he's doing. Just kidding, that's not true. By the way, he's a good guy. I served with him. He didn't do anything like that, it's all lies. But some just cope with it calmly. Well, they took some guy and said, let's give him some tea. He'll soon be sent to the rear to rest. He surrendered, good job, way to go. There's that. It varies quite a bit. In most cases, of course, it's friendly. So, more or less friendly with respect, let's say. They don't beat them up too much, because only when you capture someone can you use physical force. However, once he surrenders, what's the point? when you take someone prisoner, we have this one guy, a short fellow that goes by the call sign Shmiga. He says, "Come here, bud." Pulls the POW closer. The prisoner says, "You're not going to kill me, right?" "Of course not. Go peacefully to the rear." And he himself went to the rear without cover. No one was covering him. Well, people were sitting there anyway. Where would he run to? And so what did he do? He sat down calmly. We bandaged his hands and gave him tea. He went to a POW camp, all calm. We even exchanged him later. We kept an eye on his social media. Of course, we checked his phone, copied everything right away. You have to check. Then we saw 3 months later that he was in Poland, so they let him go to Poland and everything was fine with him.
God willing, better to be in Poland than die for Zelensky.
Of course, 100%. Why die for Zelensky?
And then this will be the last one. Ukraine conflict has made the Russian military far more democratic. That's what I think that's the word he's using. It's hard to see with the sun over here. Before the war, Russian military was a rigid and conservative institution. But over the past 3 years, there's been a massive influx of new ideas, technology, and specialists. And we got another video.
The Russian army was very stagnant. A person would serve for 20 years and he wouldn't see anything around him. What's happening? He doesn't need anything. He has his army, and that's all. And if the army didn't tell him to follow the high-tech news, he wouldn't. That's how the system was built. But after the mobilization and the volunteers who came after Russia's defeat, who had the mindset of we need to help, new blood, new ideas, fresh ideas, connections, and some machines started to appear. They started explaining things to people. There was a person in the radio unit, an amateur. He just went around as a private explaining to the colonels in our division how to use the new radios. Now he's the head of the radio service in the division I served in. Cool. So this person was promoted. Now he's even a captain. That's awesome. So you don't need to study for 4 years. You just need to be a good specialist in your position.
All right. And that's why I said this is a good thread. If you want to see more, blah, blah, blah. So that's the end of that thread. And let me see if I do. We'll do one more. This is Dr. Stella Emanuel, MD. Just a reminder, the government did more to stop the distribution of ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine. We now know that are two excellent medications. And then they did to stop the distribution of fentanyl. All right, I'm going to get on the road and see if I can find my way back. But we'll talk about some more things on the way back. See the deer? See the deer? Oh, I got him. There he goes. There he goes. Hopefully we got him on the video. All right, I'm going to do something incredibly stupid here. I'm going to go this way. You know, it's just appalling to me, the Democrats. I mean, when you think about it, I have no idea if I'm going back to where I parked my car. We could be back here until dark. Anyway, that they left those astronauts up there for 10 months, man. Elon was pointing out in an interview with Hannity that you're only supposed to be up there about 6 months max before, you know, your body starts deteriorating in fashion. And they did it all for politics. I tell you, the Democrats have no soul whatsoever. You know, in going back to the State of the Union address, you know, when they wouldn't even stand up for all of the people that Trump was, you know, had brought in to talk about their story. I mean, I was almost moved to tears by some of that. I don't know, maybe I'm just an emotional old dude. But and the Democrats just sat there with their little pallets and held them up in the air. I don't know, man. I don't know how you can be around a Democrat. I know I can't. And let's pray that I'm not lost by doing this. I think the sun's behind me, and it was really kind of on my right-hand side. So I'm thinking I've been generally going in the right direction. Maybe. We'll find out. I know this is a watching the world burn video, but I just thought this was really cool to get on the video. I mean, when they cut the trail, yeah, this is a nice touch. They left this kind of in the middle of the trail so that you kind of go right around it. It's just a, you know, little stuff like that really makes a hike a lot more. I almost thought that was a trail. I swear you could go off trail back here and get a good hike in too. I mean, it's crazy. You'd not have to have all my backpack gear on me. You know, plus the ticks are starting to come out here in the next couple of weeks, I imagine. So I know the mosquitoes are starting. It's going to suck. I'm not going to be able to do these hikes and, you know, on a hot, muggy day with bugs all over me. That makes it a lot less pleasant on these hikes. Hey, I'm going to come back and make a hiking video of this. I mean, look at this. Looks like there's a turn down here. Now I need to go to the right. If I go to the left, that means I'm not heading back. I'm pretty sure. Like I said, I should have taken an azimuth before I came out. I don't know. I just enjoy being lost. You know, it's more fun this way. One thing about Florida, you can't go anywhere without finding water. I bet there's a gator down in there somewhere. Anyway, did find my way back to the main road. So we're on our way back. But I did want to do one more reading for you because I thought this was an interesting post. For the past 3 weeks, Social Security has been executing a major cleanup of their records. Approximately 7 million number holders are listed age 120 plus, or 7 million, right. Another have now been marked and deceased. Another 5 million to go. So they're cleaning up Social Security. And Sean Hannity just did a montage, and it was all the Democrats complaining about all the things that they're cleaning up. And you know that's because they're grifters. They wouldn't be complaining if he wasn't cleaning things up. All right? Yeah, and in fact, they're sitting there going, by deleting U.S. aid, he's putting the U.S. in danger. How is sending our money all over the world for stupid things like transgender surgeries and everything putting the United States in danger? I mean, do Democrats ever listen to themselves? I mean, you're just like looking at it and you're going like, wait a minute. I think that I would rather that money go to the people in North Carolina than go over to South. You can send that money to South Africa or wherever they're some freaking foreign nation. And you know, it's just money laundering. They're getting kickbacks on all of that. But I mean, just the amount of Democrat outrage of all the cuts that he's making, you know, I think it's fantastic. You know, we got to get all this fraud out of the government or we're going to go bankrupt. You know, Elon says it, you know, and then nobody has anything. I can't, Democrats wrap their head around that. Do you understand if you bankrupt the United States? Well, maybe that's, you know, I think that is their mission. They actually wanted to do that. I mean, and think about it. When they were importing all those illegal aliens, Elon pointed out that they were mainly focused on the swing states. And they're putting them there because they wanted those votes. Because if they could turn the, and then by the way, they were paying them. Remember, they were paying the illegal immigrants to vote Democrat. So if they could have accomplished that task, we would have been a one-party system for now on and evermore. But the thing is, they didn't care who they were importing. I mean, criminals, drug gangs, fentanyl, you know, anything just to stay in power. That's why we're talking about the totalitarian, Marxist, communist, authoritarian Democrat. I'm still working on that post. I got to work on it last night, but I got too tired. But eventually, I'm going to read a nice long description of the 6 types of Democrats. And I've already done the meat puppet Democrat. You can look at that post on X, and I'll do a reading to you sooner or later. We'll get to it. Oh, I forgot to talk about the elections coming up tomorrow. We lost to a leftist Supreme Court nominee or Democrat in Pennsylvania by 300 votes. And the reason I wanted to tell you that was because, you know, Trump did real well in Pennsylvania. And so the odds of us losing that Supreme Court position were about nil and none if the Republicans had voted. But for some reason, they didn't come out and vote. You do understand how important, you know, as a U.S. citizen it is to vote in every election and try to be as informed as you possibly can. I understand you're very, very busy, you know. And, but I mean, think about California. California's a shithole now because they just didn't get out and vote before the Democrats took it over. And now the Democrats have rigged the elections in California. You'll never see a Republican win there ever again. which, you know, in my opinion, we should secede California from the Union, because those are a lot of representatives in Congress that are rigged elections. You know, without voter ID, you can't have an election that's not rigged. So anyway, and well, the other two races was there was a you know, Matt Walsh's seat here in Virginia. It looks like I think his name's Klein. He's the Republican. It's actually a lot tighter than anybody thought it was going to be, but it looks like he's going to pull it out with the early voting. We can hope. I would hate to lose another seat to a Democrat, and that's in Congress. And then, of course, you've got the Supreme Court election in Wisconsin. And the reason that was important is because they're going to gerrymander those voting districts to make sure the Democrats stay in power in Wisconsin from now on and in many years to come, if the leftist Supreme Court justice wins. And so that's why that election is so important. Do you see what I'm saying? Every election is vitally important to your future. Okay, in fact, nothing is more important to your future than voting, you know, because you have to have the right people in the right places doing the right things for the right reasons. Otherwise, you're going to end up just like California, a shithole where the homeless are all over the streets, the businesses have left, there's, you know, massive poverty, drugs, illegal immigrants are brought in, it's a sanctuary state. You know, nobody with any common sense wants to live in California but a Democrat. So, like I said, no common sense whatsoever. So I'm just telling you, always vote.
In this document, the CIA sets out how they believed at the time, after the failure of the Bay of Pigs, that there was no direct, immediate way to overthrow Castro in Cuba, and that was what was required instead was a massive commitment from Congress in terms of money and manpower beyond these special operations being done in the form of Bay of Pigs. But the CIA was frustrated that that political will from Congress did not exist. What they're saying here is, since we can't get Congress to take the action we want them to, we don't have the authority because the American people are not voting for what we really want to do. The other option we have is to just do mass immigration of these exile communities of immigrants and refugees. And over time, if we give unlimited support to these exile groups, they will form enough of a lobby on themselves to affect the internal politics of Congress, with importing tens of thousands of Somalians into Minneapolis, Minnesota. Lo and behold, that produces a congresswoman like Ilhan Omar, who then goes and advocates on behalf of the Obama foreign policy for Somalia and Eritrea and Kenya and the whole region. Seeing that in writing from the Cloak and Dagger Central Intelligence Agency 60 years ago, and that we're dealing with the same issue right now as we take on the immigration issue, really is a sort of Back to the Future moment.